Welcome to this episode of YouTube, and do apologize for the delay. We had our floor redone in the lab, and that required us to take down some technology, so we are back online, and we've been busy. There's been a little bit of a possible dominance posturing, normal hormonal thing, or a possible loss of confidence from Aiden that's created a dynamic change within the pack. So, again, the pack is consisting of two wolves that are approaching maturity. That's Axel and Grayson. Bolts, who's a 5-year-old, Denali, who's 9, going on 10. And we know in the past that we've had pack leader changes around the age of 10. So this time of the year is also typically more hormonally driven. So we could very well just have a circumstance where the younger wolves getting a little bit more ritualized in their dominance is causing Aiden some confidence issues and he's just choosing to stay away, or that there's a move on his status. It's hard to say, but at this point it's really affected his confidence. So we've been dealing with that since last week, Thursday. And we've dealt with this before. Ritualized dominance is something that we see. We know that it occurs in wintertime. This is Shadow, Malik, Grizzer, Maya, and Nisa in January of 2005. Ritualized dominance is noisy, it's posturing, it's scruff biting. In this case, Grizzer's a yearling there. He doesn't know what to do, so he's going to mount from behind. Could be a little hormonally driven. In this case, also, we had two females there, so you have Maya and Nisa in a female rank order, and Shadow, Malik, and Grizzer in a male rank order. So these are noisy, they're intense, but the reality is they're over. This is kind of a ritualized dominance just to show status and to posture, and these are not fights, these are just noise-making events that occur this time of the year to kind of reinforce everyone's status. So typically after these rank order dominance things, you see a lot of posturing. You see, one wolf maybe facing off another, ears prick forward, jaw sparring, that kind of thing. And this is Nisa on the left and Maya on the right. Again, doesn't mean that they dislike each other, just is a way of wolves to, again, be able to maintain order. And so you can see here two brothers, they were 5 years of age at the time. They're posturing and they're circling and they're doing all this kind of thing. So whether Aiden's circumstance was because this was kind of going on with the younger animals and doing a little posturing and he got nervous and that nervousness made him weak, or is there an intent to move on his status? We, again, don't know that at this time. All we can do is kind of interpret. We do know that Grayson, alone with Aiden, is still very socially bonded, but as soon as Bolts and Axel come over, Grayson participates in dominance over Aiden. And so that's kind of a combination effect. Denali's not necessarily participating, but it's primarily Bolts and Axel. And so we're, again, looking at that in itself, Grayson's not a problem in itself. Axel's not a problem in itself. Bolts is not a problem. But when you get the young ones together, they get excited and they start to push rank and they see Aiden as weak and they're targeting him. Aiden's taking refuge in the den, and that's kind of a safety zone for him. And one of the reasons why we see this as kind of a little bit of problematic is that Aiden had a history with this den. I'll talk about it a little bit later. So in order for us to deal with it, like I said, I don't want to take Aiden out right away because this may just be a short-term winter hormonal thing, and it may not be because they're not physically really, pinning him to the ground or going after him. They're, some hindquarter bites, and grabbing that you saw when they first came, but Aiden's kind of willingly walking right out after the posturing stops. It's not intense. It's not fixation. No doubt there's focus. And so for us, our challenge is if we make a decision, Aiden's a pack leader, if we choose to move him out, he's done. They're going to close up ranks and they're not going to allow him back in. In the past, we had Omegas like Lakota, where we took her out in February because it was too much, put her back in June, and everything was fine. She was an Omega. Aiden is a pack leader, so we really want to make sure that if he wants to be out, that we make that accommodation for him. Now, why I say that is because if he goes into retirement and he doesn't want to be separated from that pack, he is going to be agitated. He's going to be, certainly not in a state of retirement, but in a state of isolation, in which is going to cause him more anxiety. So what we've been doing is every morning we've been trying to lock off the wolves for a period of time to give Aiden a little bit of confidence, a little bit of comfort, so he can kind of move around the enclosure a little bit. And then we're letting them out in a distinct order. Grayson and Denali are coming out first, and you see no focus. I mean, they basically are not focusing on Aiden. Typically we have some scraps and some things. Denali's kind of a food hound, so he goes wherever the food is. But this gives Aiden a little bit of mental confidence. You see his ears are pricked forward. He's aware of what's going on. That's a Grayson and Denali, not a threat. And certainly allowing him to tail wag and if you watch his tail, he's still a T2 for a while there, then a T3, so he's comfortable. Certainly this isn't the best case scenario, but he's moving around and he's comfortable. And then we bring out Axel, because he's the juvenile, meaning Axel in himself is not going to be a threat. He's a juvenile, but Bolts is. And so we bring out Axel first, and then Aiden can kind of see, okay, here's Axel. He's not doing anything. Maybe I can get a little bit more confidence. And then we bring Bolts out. And typically what happens is Bolts is the one that goes to assert or goes to focus. And so that's a little bit more problematic. That yawning is, again, a stress release and something to watch. Like I said, the other problem that I have is that this could be psychological. This is Aiden as a young yearling, where he was ostracized to the den by Maya, the pack leader, who was extremely hard on him. And so for months and months, Aiden lived in this den and couldn't go much past the upper hill or kind of towards the front of the exhibit. Maya was just riding him, keeping him in a subordinate posture, and did that for a long period of time. So I think part of our problem is that we may not just have a confidence issue. We may have something that's triggering the association of that den with the kind of the weakness that he's experiencing. So we're working on that. This is surveillance footage from on the 24th, which was Wednesday. You can see at 7 in the morning, he kind of makes his way out, away from the den, finds the security of the windows. There's the Arctics, and again, they're not mobbing him. They're just, testing him. I mean, he's weak. There's no doubt. They're looking at him and saying, "You're not our pack leader. This is not how a pack leader acts." And so Denali comes over. He's tail wagging, does a little poke on, a four-leg stab on one of the yearlings. Denali's not, again, focusing on him. This is not as much a deposing that we can see, where they're forcefully going after Aiden, as much as it is Aiden somehow, something happened, something triggered in his mind, that he's lost his confidence, and we're trying to figure out, can we build it back, or do we need to move forward and retire him? The biggest challenge that we have to watch is that the rest of the pack clearly does not have any leadership. In 2010, when we retired Shadow, we had a problem in that Shadow was a pack leader. We retired him in July. We thought he was kind of, health-wise, was losing some weight. Didn't seem like he was really, bonding with the pack as much. He was real tense when anyone went near him. So we took him out. And unfortunately, what happened in November, December of 2010, January, February, into March of 2011, we had nonstop conflict between Denali and Grizzer and Maya and Aiden, trying to figure out who was going to lead the pack. Maya was in charge. She was looking for a pair bonded male, and it created a lot of strife. So if I pull Aiden too soon, if there's no real clear leadership, then we're going to have conflicts. And you see Bolts run across there in a T2 tail. Again, he doesn't go after Aiden. He just postures. And there's Aiden still staying at the window. Bolts in a T2. Notice how Denali starts to kind of get a little excited. That gets Grayson on Denali. So I have to be mindful, too, that Grayson's a big player here. Grayson has been hard on Denali. And even when I separate for a period, in just a very short period of time when I pull the pack off, I make sure that Grayson comes out with Denali, because if not, if Grayson comes out first or Denali comes out first, they're going to be waiting at the gate for that wolf to come out and mob them because of that separation. So I've got to be mindful who I move, when I move, how long I move. And in this case, like I say, this pack is not looking like they're deposing a dominant. I think they're looking like they're responding to a weaker mental state, and we just have to figure out why. Why is Aiden experiencing that? We're checking his leg to make sure that there's no return of a growth that may be making him feel uncomfortable. When we lock off the wolves, we're able to give him some food. He is eating when we feed the carcass. So this has only been since a week ago, Thursday. So we're a little over a week into this. On Saturday night's feeding, delivered a deer leg to him. He took it in the den. He was able to maintain it. We're trying to give him food. He's caching, and he's going after caches. So, that's our biggest concern, is obviously maintaining his food resources while we're trying to work him through this. If we don't get a turnaround here, we're going to have to start making some hard decisions. And those of you who are webinar subscribers or are viewing in for the Winter Dynamics webinar on Friday, I'll go into more details about what that's going to be. We may very well have made decisions by then, by the webinar, but we'll definitely give you updates. But we watch the surveillance footage, and again, here it is, 7:43, pack's moving around. They're not locked off. We are seeing him move around. He's not in a tuck tail. He's in a low tail, but he's not in a fearful tail. So he's checking things out. He's moving around, and we just need to break that brain, mindset of weakness and try to help him gain his comfort level back. So again, whether this might have been could have been triggered by something external. It could have been triggered by wind. It could have been triggered something that put him in a weak state, and then somebody took advantage of him, and then now we're kind of paying the price for it. So that's what's going on. And again, I've been getting a lot of emails from people. I know I'd been hoping to get some information out sooner than this, but as you can imagine, this is our focus. This is something that is very important to us to try to make sure that we do what's best for him for not only the short term, but the long term. As I said, we want to make sure that he's comfortable leaving this pack, and we're not certain that he's there yet, because life in retirement is about calm, it's about relaxation, and if he's fixated on being part of that pack, and in our experience, Shadow had that kind of similar issue, where Shadow continually was howling and showing some real connection to the pack, that is not healthy for him. So, and as I said earlier, I don't want to leave this pack with a rudderless ship either. So in other words, if they're not deposing Aiden, then they're not ready for taking over for Aiden. And so we're just kind of playing it day by day. It is imperative that Wolf Care staff have good observation skills, record everything, document everything, having cameras available so that we can go back to footage. You may notice we're starting to leave a light on in the front of the exhibit, not so much that the wolves can see, but that we can see what's going on, from the surveillance video. That's Axel there posturing a little bit towards Aiden. Again, not significant, making Aiden tuck his tail a little bit, but Axel's a juvenile, doesn't follow up on it. He doesn't, doesn't push it. He's just posturing. And that's what we need to really kind of separate, is when does it change? So Aiden's still able with a threat display to back off Axel there. So with that going on, we still have a retired pack to work with, and Luna loves winter, and winter is one of those times where she starts posturing. And Grizzer will be 14 in May. He's doing pretty good, but we, are mindful of the losses we've suffered in 14-year-old wolves, with Lucas was 13, Shadow, Malik at 14, Mackenzie at 15. We know that this is a very, very special time. So the change between these two is that Luna, being only 5, really, really likes play bows, likes tossing things, likes invite chasing, likes running, likes getting excited, likes stalking. Grizzer says, you know what, I'm 14. So we have to be mindful of that. We do separate them when they feed, because that's had been a concern in the past, and that's working out pretty well. But Grizzer, I think he's moving better, and actually probably having a little bit of Luna stimuli is a good exercise plan for him. The other thing is having that roof over that connected panel has been good. He's been sleeping in there in cover hay, so those working for Will's people that worked here, we are benefiting so much from the half gate in order to feed the pack to the overhanging roof that keeps that area protected. So Luna obviously is focused on the pack. We'll have a discussion in the webinar about, what Aiden's relationship may be to Luna and Grizzer. That's all things we have to decide. So thanks for watching. Sorry for the lengthy delay. Hope to get back on track here soon.